Alright, ladies and gents, as you can see, the February update details are here. We're going to be having 8 hours of maintenance time, so make sure you guys plan accordingly. In this update, we're going to be getting 3 new uniforms, one for Ant-Man, one for Wasp, one for MODOK, and we're going to be getting a new character in Cassie Lang. So with that being said, let's jump right into it. So like I told you guys in the live stream earlier today, as you can see, she's going to be a paywall character, but you're going to be able to get her at 1 star from the legendary battle, whether you play the normal or the extreme version. However, they have decided to trap her at tier 2 for the foreseeable future, which I think is absolutely stupid. Her leadership is critical rate, it's just mediocre. However, her 4-star passive is quite interesting. Keep in mind, this is her 4-star passive, so you're going to have access to this even at tier 1. And that's important because she's a paywall character. You're going to get access to her at 1 star, and you're going to have to use tickets to get her to tier 2. However, at 4 stars, you will get access to this passive, which applies to all of your speed characters. It's very interesting that they did it this way. Usually they would put the passives that buff other characters, so the support passive, if you will, on the tier 2 passive to try and force you to tier 2 the character. But in her case, you can keep her at tier 1 and still get the support benefit. So I definitely would suggest picking her up and getting her to 6 stars at the very least, even though you're still going to need her at tier 2 if you want to use her in World Boss Ultimate. And obviously without a tier 3 or a Transcendence, she's not going to be applicable for Giant Boss Raid or World Boss Legend. However, 25% ignore dodge, 15% extra damage to heroes and villains. I'm not too sure why they cut it to 15%. However, maybe that's because of the fact it's on a 4-star passive, and maybe in the future when she gets a uniform, they'll buff that. Moving on, her tier 2 passive gives her guaranteed critical rate, skill damage and bonus damage, and a little bit of damage reduction. Her first skill, pretty basic. Second skill has silence and paralysis, which is really good. Her third skill has paralysis, debuff removal, a barrier, damage accumulation, and it also heals her for 7% of her HP, which is quite low if you ask me. This might be a refreshing buff that ticks for maybe 5 seconds, because anything less would actually be quite underwhelming. However, the character is still trapped at tier 2, so you can't really use her in really difficult endgame content anyways. Moving on, we have paralysis again on her 4th skill. We have damage immunity and a damage buff. And then on her 5th skill, we have burn, buff removal, paralysis, and invincibility with a 50% attack buff. So it looks like 4 to 5 skills can paralyze the enemy. However, these cooldown times are actually really long. 18, 17, 18. That's kind of yikes. So looking at this, unless a couple of these skills can be instantly cancelled, she might not be very proc friendly. Moving on, we have Ant-Man. His uniform bonus is being changed to give him chain hit damage, immunity to guard break, and a little bit of damage reduction. So that is a good start. His tier 3 skill is being improved, and what they're actually adding is the 60% all attack for 10 seconds right here. Additionally, with this uniform, he's getting a brand new 4-star passive. Before, this was a 30% chance when he's attacking to give himself 15% more attack, and this was on a 30-second cooldown. So this is a big change, a very beneficial change for Ant-Man. This is very similar to what I saw them do for Black Widow, if I remember correctly. I believe she has a 40% attack buff on her 4-star passive. Moving on, for Ant-Man's tier 2 passive, they've actually significantly increased his skill damage and bonus damage. Before, this was 10% skill damage and 10% bonus damage. Now it's 40-40. This has also been changed to when he's attacking. Additionally, the activation rate for his elusive hero passive, which gives him the 87% guaranteed dodge, has actually been changed. Before, this was when you were using his frenzy buff. Now it's just whenever he's attacking, pretty much every 30 seconds, he's gonna get 20 seconds when you pretty much can't hit him unless you have ignore dodge. It's gonna be pretty interesting to see how this plays out in PvP, especially when you have somebody like Hulk who has no native ignore dodge, and he's genuinely not built with ignore dodge. We also have Jean Grey, who doesn't have any ignore dodge in her kit. However, most people do run her with a CTP of greed. So it's going to be interesting to see how Ant-Man holds up in PvP, especially since they gave him a little bit of damage reduction, which is something they didn't give to Spider-Man. However, looking at Ant-Man, he has no iframe ignore, which I think is hella yikes. So he probably has no PvP potential just looking at this. Moving on, first skill, Fracture, Second skill, stun and incapacitation. Third skill has damage accumulation, that's 1.2%. Fourth skill has silence, a heal, invincibility, and an attack buff. Fifth skill has paralysis and a 100% damage proc. So looking at this, I'm thinking maybe his place is going to be in World Boss Legend, Giant Boss Raid, but we're going to have to wait and see. Moving on, we have the WASP. Let's see what's going on here. So 20% more HP for all allies is pretty good. The leadership is being buffed to 30%. They should have gone all out. They should have been up to 60% all attack, 50% defense, and 30% speed, if anything. Moving on, for her 4-star passive, she gets 15% chain hit damage when she's attacking. Moving on, we have her 4-star passive, which has been changed to give her 15% chain hit damage, and there's a 30% chance when she's attacking to paralyze or stun the enemy for 2 seconds with a 20-second cooldown. Now for her first skill, they're giving her paralysis, which ignores immunity, which means this is going to work in World Boss Ultimate. Second skill has shock and paralysis, and also gives all of your allies damage immunity for 1 second. The only places that I can see this being of use to you is Giant Boss Raid or in Alliance Conquest. However, her second skill is quite packed with super armor and all defense being on it. Third skill also has paralysis with some extra dodge and attack on it. Fourth skill has damage accumulation, which is pretty good. However, it's 0.7, but it's the WASP, so I wasn't really expecting her to be like a mind-blowingly strong character. However, her fifth skill is quite shocking, 9 seconds of invincibility, which is pretty big. Even though a lot of characters these days have penetration, surprisingly she doesn't, however, but she has a 25% heal that activates every 17 seconds, and she also has 9 seconds of invincibility, which is pretty cool with a damage proc here. I'm not gonna lie though, it is quite sad to see both Wasp and Ant-Man come in and neither one of them get ignore iframe in their kit. I think that is quite crippling in 2023. Moving on to the man of the hour, MODOK. So they're giving him chain hit damage when he's attacking, 15%. The damage reduction is quite sad. 45% energy attack leadership, so that is bumped up from the 30 that it was natively. His 4-star passive is being improved to include immunity to mind control. Tier 2 passive now is ignore, dodge, and skill damage and bonus damage. First skill has silence. Second skill has burn, stun, and paralysis. His third skill actually offers ignore defense, which is just absolutely ridiculous. Whoever designed this deserves a slap, bro. People don't even put ignore defense ooze on characters anymore because you can easily get it from your cards. Anyways, it is happy to see that this guy got damage accumulation though. It's only 0.9, but it's not that far off the highest amount that you can possibly get. Moving on, we have mind control, incapacitation, paralysis, 20% HP recovery, 5 seconds of invincibility. Got some attack and some defense in here with a little bit of critical rate. So all in all, not too bad for MODOK. Moving on for the, let's see this Killer Instinct. Yeah, buddy, busting all over them. Anyways, moving on. So we have 80% ignore dodge, 80% penetration. He might slap. He got charm here too, and we already know that charm heals, but unfortunately that's not going to help us too much in World Boss Legend where we're going to be using him. So 70% attack, 30% character size, and then an additional 30% attack. I'm confused. Like, why not just put 100% attack and then 30% defense? Like, what is the purpose of the second line? Like, it actually makes no sense, bro. They literally could have just put 100% all basic attack and 30% extra defense, and then just put the character size by itself. It actually makes no sense. They're just making this look like it's more than it actually is. What the hell, bro? Basic. Moving on. So we're getting a legendary battle. We already knew this. You can buy her for 2,500 crystals at 6 stars. Don't do it. You get all kinds of free tickets. It's not worth it. Okay, so they're changing the guided quests. Okay, so this portion of the patch notes is actually really important for those of you guys who are relatively new to the game. So as you can see, before you had to do the tier 2 guided quest 10 times, and then finally you will get access to 1 free tier 3 character. However, after the update, as you can see right here, you're going to be able to clear the tier 2 guided quest 3 times, and then after that you'll be able to clear the tier 3 guided quest once, and you'll be able to repeat that cycle 2 times. Now, instead of getting 10 free tier 2s, you're going to be getting 6 tier 2s and 2 tier 3s, which is significantly better because it's just so easy to get tier 2 characters at this point. However, for some of you guys, it might be still pretty difficult to get tier 3 characters, especially when you consider the fact that the books sometimes take weeks to farm. So this is actually pretty good. And for those of you guys who are wondering, if you've cleared the tier 2 guided quest 6 or more times already, after the update goes live, you'll get access to the 2 free tier 3s back to back. The best part about the fact that they're going to be giving away even more free tier 3s is the fact that 8 of the 12 characters currently in this selector have access to tier 4 already, and they're currently some of the strongest characters in the game. Additionally, one of the biggest changes they've made to the tier 3 guided quest is the fact that now all of the characters have their latest uniforms displayed at a 50% discount. Previously, these were actually older uniforms. Moving on, we have some artifacts, as you can see right here. So for Cassie Lang, she's getting 26% all attack, which is just mediocre. Ant-Man is getting damage reduction and extra damage to boss types, so they're really trying to push him as a boss killer. We'll see how that goes. The Wasp has the same exact artifact as Gore, Scarlet Witch, and Crescent, which I think is quite silly considering the fact that the Wasp is primarily a support character. So they should have made this apply to all allies, and if anything, just cut this from 20% to 15%. Moving on, we have MODOK, and MODOK is doing 25% extra damage to alien and creature type characters. I believe this one is very similar to Dr. Octavius, if I'm not mistaken. Moving on, we have Giant Man, decreased damage received from superhero and decreased damage received from supervillain. So it's basically the reverse of what the Wasp got. Kind of lazy, to be honest with you. So we have a special icon for Cassie and a special icon for Kang the Conqueror. And I'm not gonna lie, Kang looks absolutely amazing. I think Ant-Man is gonna be the one that's in the shop. This one is going to be in the legendary battle. Kang, baby, I'm coming for you. That one's going to cost you 60 bucks if you want to get it, boys.